Hi, today we're going to discuss the never-ending story of IELTS or OET. Now, I've received some questions recently, and many people contact me and ask me, do you do IELTS preparation? And I used to, I don't anymore for nurses at least. And when I say, well, have you considered OET? They say, what's that? Is that the same? Or can I really pass this exam OET? Because I only knew about IELTS. And I'm like, misinformed. So let's do this today, okay? So in order to register as a nurse, not just as a nurse, as a doctor also, but I'm going to discuss nurses today, okay? So in order to register as a nurse in the UK, you need a language exam and you can choose between IELTS and OET. So it's not just IELTS, okay? There's also something called OET, Occupational English Test. Then the question is, what's the difference? And today we're going to look at the differences. Now, I'm going to tell you that for nurses, we consider IELTS to be not the best option, although IELTS is a very good option if you want to show off your academic language, if you want to go and study at university. You also need IELTS, for example, or to get your citizenship, although there are other options too. But in this case, we strongly recommend OET. So let's look a bit at the format. Now, what you need for nurses, okay, what you need is IELTS academic, and that means 4 papers: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Now, today I'm going to show you a sample task for writing and one for speaking, but I'm also going to provide you with links in the comments so you can go and check out reading and listening. But you can also write in Google IELTS reading sample, IELTS listening sample, OET reading sample, OET listening sample. So before choosing one of the 2 exams, I would strongly recommend you to go and look at the tasks. So sorry, I'm losing my voice. For listening, we have 4 recorded monologues and conversations. And for reading, we have 3 long reading passages. Then we have 2 pieces of writing, and for speaking, you have an interview with 3 parts. What happens in OET? In OET, the listening has 3 parts, the reading has 3 parts. There is just 1 task in writing and 2 role plays in speaking. Now, let's clarify a bit the difference between IELTS and OET. Now, in IELTS, you are going to focus on almost all the academic vocabulary, okay? So you might have a task asking you to describe the process of making a fish pie. Now, of course, they are going to show you the steps or just name them, and you are going to have, or you're going to require the vocabulary to actually develop such an essay. So when we think about IELTS and OET, we say that IELTS is a bit more broad, you need a lot more academic vocabulary, while for OET, you actually need your nursing and your medical vocabulary. That doesn't mean you don't need to have an academic advanced level of language, because I've heard people saying OET is easier than IELTS. It's actually not easier. They test the same level of language. The thing is, for OET, it is a bit more relevant, okay? So you do need the nursing vocabulary and you do need the medical vocabulary. That's why it's a bit more interesting. Now, especially for people who have not worked after the studies or who've never worked in the UK, or even if you've worked as a carer, the OET is really important because it helps you with the skills that you need for work and with the vocabulary, okay? You are going to be able to actually understand terminology and use terminology properly. Now, let's look a bit at the tasks. Now, for IELTS, 1 sample, just an overview. Okay? Some believe that people today have no interest in maintaining the traditional culture of their country or region. Others believe that it is still important to people that we preserve a traditional way of life. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Now, there are many people who struggle with this because they say, well, I'm a bit more practical. I don't have ideas. So, if this is you, probably IELTS is not the best choice. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take IELTS. If you have an advanced level of language, really, it might be better for you to actually take IELTS than OET because for IELTS we have loads of structures. The essays are very well structured. We know what to write in each paragraph. So you might get to the exam faster. However, if your level of language is not advanced, and when I say advanced, I mean like advanced, C1, then I would recommend OET. Now, OET task. Using the information given in the case notes, write a letter of discharge to Miss Jane Rudy, the community nurse at Newtown Community Health Center, informing her about the patient's condition and her medical and social needs. Address your letter to. So you can immediately see that the tasks for OET are a bit more relevant. Now, this is what a writing task looks like for IELTS. You actually have two tasks, okay? You normally have to describe a graph, a process, etc. And this is task 1, and this is a sample. And task 2 is a bit of a longer essay. Learning English at school is often seen as more important than learning local languages. If these are not taught, many are at risk of dying out. In your opinion, is it important for everyone to learn English? Should we try to ensure the survival of local languages? And if so, how? And again, you have a sample answer. So if you want to learn a bit more about IELTS, I'm going to provide you with a link, but if you want, you can also stop the recording right now and read the model answers, get an idea of what you would have to do in IELTS. Let's look at OET now. So in OET, you get a series of case notes about a patient, and you need to extract the relevant ones in order to write a letter. That's about it. So one of the differences is that in IELTS you have to come up with your own ideas and have quite a wide vocabulary. However, in OET you are given the case notes, you just need to develop them into complete sentences. It's not that simple. Of course, you do need a certain structure, and you do need to know grammar, okay, and have a bit of a vocabulary. However, you are given the information you need to develop, and you need to extract just the relevant information for your recipient, the person receiving the letter. Now, let's look a bit at speaking. There are 3 parts in IELTS speaking. The first one is questions about yourself, and this is used to make you feel a bit more confident, to open up, and then you have a card in part 2. You have 1 minute to prepare, and then you have 1 or 2 minutes to talk continuously on this topic. And then you have further questions like what kind of things give status to people in your country? Do you think advertising influences what people buy? So again, if you have a wide range of vocabulary and if you are good at supporting your ideas, then you should go for IELTS. But if you're not, then you should choose OET. So in OET, you start with something called a warm-up, but it's not scored. So that's why I don't have the questions here. However, those are questions about you from a professional point of view. Why did you choose to become a nurse? What are the qualities of a good nurse? What's your daily routine at work? And then you have 2 cards. For each card, you have 3 minutes to read and to think about what you're going to say. And then you have 5 minutes to have a role play with an interlocutor. So there's going to be someone in the room playing the role of a patient. Now, you should focus a lot on the information given on the card, okay? Especially if you have cards with a lot of tasks like here, you don't have the time to come up with other ideas. So you should stick to the card, especially if the card is very, very big. Now, if the card is smaller, then you are going to need some ideas of your own, but this is something we normally learn in class and how to do that. Now, you don't have to worry too much about not knowing the medical concepts, because as you can see here between brackets you have loads of information, okay? So they tell you even how to insert the needle, how to leave it in place, pinch the skin, and so on and so forth. Especially the bigger cards have been created thinking about people who don't have too much experience, but so you are given some information to help you develop what's on the card. This is more or less like what happens in writing. You have everything you need here. You just need to develop this into complete sentences according to certain criteria, of course. So that's about it. Now, what you can do at this point is to go and check out the links and also see a bit the reading and the listening. You can at least read the text. You don't have to actually do the whole test, but you could go through the text and see which ones seem easier to you. So when people ask me, what should I choose, IELTS or OET? Now, if the level of language is lower, I normally recommend OET, because if you have to learn something, you are going to learn something that's actually useful for your profession. Now, as I was saying earlier, if your level of language is quite advanced, you could go directly for IELTS, but if not, you could go for OET. However, at the end of the day, you are the person who needs to make a conscious choice, an informed choice, okay? You need to go read about these two exams, okay? Don't just rely on what people say. You go and you look at them and see which one seems easier to you and which one you'd feel a bit more confident, even if you don't know too much about the exam, but a bit more confident in learning for and passing successfully. Now, if you would like to work together, then we can help you through our membership academy and community, which is a place where you have materials for self-study, a lot of materials for self-study, grammar, nursing language, medical language, and mock tests analyzed, and so on and so forth. That's about it for me. I'm Valentina Popescu from VP Modern Foreign Languages. We are an official OET preparation provider here in the UK. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can join our free support community on Facebook or send us an email at contact@vplanguages.com. See you!